All right, so over these 4 days, we are going to read a little bit more about some of those Indian tribes that were introduced last week on Social Studies Weekly in week 6. And each day, guys, there's going to be a different tribe that we read and we learn a little bit more about. And so today, what I wanted to do, since this is the first one, I wanted to kind of go through and model reading this, out loud, and you can follow along in this video. And really what we're doing is kind of the same thing we do in reading and in writing with annotating the text. So underlining some important details, maybe jotting down some notes in the margin. If you don't have this article printed or you don't have it accessible, meaning you can see it on the screen really easily and follow along, then please pause the video and try to locate this article now. It is located in the Monday folder right below the direction page. All right, so let's get started. The first tribe we're going to learn about is called the Calusa. These people were referred to as the Shell Indians. I can see this picture down here, a nonfiction text feature, and it looks kind of like a net and then some type of object attached. And I also see some headings in this text. So I'm going to box those in. How the Calusa lived, the Calusa as Shell Indians. And then if we turn to the back, there is a second page to this article. We can see another nonfiction text feature, a map. And that's showing us, if we look right here at this caption, the Calusa lived in Southwest Florida. So in this area right here. So it looks like they lived kind of on or near the water here in the Southwest region of Florida. There's another heading here, the Calusa as sailors. And finally at the bottom, what happened to the Calusa? So I have an idea now how this article is broken apart, and let's get started. Let's start back at the beginning. Zoom in a little bit so you guys can see this. Great. The Calusa, so they've given us the pronunciation here, lived on the sandy shores of the southwest coast of Florida. These Indians controlled most of South Florida. The population of this tribe may have reached as many as 50,000 people. So I'm just going to underline population, 50,000. The Calusa men were tall and well-built with long hair. Calusa means fierce people. I'm going to box that in right there. So I guess that's how they describe these Indians. They were described as a fierce, warlike people. So they're very strong and I guess how they described well-built and fierce. So maybe even slightly intimidating. I don't know. They make them sound like big, burly people who are very strong. Many smaller tribes were constantly watching for these marauding warriors. The first Spanish explorers found that the Indians were not very friendly. So we have then people coming over, exploring this land, and what did they find when they encountered these Indians? That they were not very friendly to them. The explorers soon became the targets of the Calusa attacks. So now, not only are they not friendly, but they're going to attack some of these Spanish explorers. This tribe was the first one that the Spanish explorers wrote home about in 1513. So these were some of the first tribes that they encountered. So far we know that they are fierce, they are strong, and we know that they were some of the first that the Spanish encountered. First Spanish encounter. Okay, let's continue. How the Calusa lived. The Calusa lived on the coast and along the inner waterways, so they're living on the water. They built their homes on stilts and wove palmetto leaves to fashion roofs, meaning to build roofs. But they didn't construct any walls. That's interesting. So I'm trying to imagine a home on stilts. They've got these leaves to create a roof, but they don't have any walls. Almost here's the ground. And they have stilts, to hold the structure up. And then leaves, but there's no walls. So it's just kind of open. Just trying to get a visual in my head. The Calusa Indians did not farm like the other Indian tribes in Florida. Instead, they fished for food on coast, bays, rivers, and waterways. So they're fishermen. The men and boys of the tribe made nets from palm tree webbing to catch mullet, pinfish, pigfish, and catfish. So they make nets to catch different fish. They used spears to catch eels and turtles. So they're building nets, they're building spears. They made fishbone arrowheads to hunt for animals such as deer. So these are all like tools that they created, I suppose. The women and children learned to catch shellfish like conchs, crabs, clams, lobster, and oysters. So these are the tools that they created, and then this describes like the food that they ate. Let's continue. The Calusa as shell Indians. The Calusa are considered to be the first shell collectors. Shells were discarded into huge heaps. Heaps meaning big piles. Unlike other Indian tribes, the Calusa did not make many pottery items. So they're not really into pottery, I suppose. They used the shells for tools, utensils, jewelry, and ornaments for their shrines. Shell spears were made for fishing and hunting. Let's turn it over to page 2. Shell mounds can still be found today in many parts of southwest or in southern Florida. So I guess these shell mounds are still there. Environmentalist and conservation groups protect many of these remaining shell mounds, so they're protected. One shell mound site is Mound Key at Estero Bay in Lee County. I guess they're going to tell us something about this one. I'm going to underline this part. Mound Key at Estero Bay in Lee County. It's a shell mound. Let's see what they tell us special about this one. Its construction is made entirely of shells and clay. The site is believed to be the chief town of the Calusa, where the leader of the tribe, Chief Carlos, lived. Oh, so that's important. Shell mound where leader lived. Just kind of summarizing that information. Moving right along. Archaeologists have excavated many of these mounds to learn more about these extinct people. So I guess you've got like scientists, specifically archaeologists, who are going in to study these mounds. And I guess if you're going to study or excavate them, then what you're really doing is kind of like digging to learn more. Artifacts such as shell tools, weapons, and ornaments are on display in many Florida history museums. Okay, so let's put study the Calusa. The Calusa as sailors. Living and surviving on the coast caused the tribesmen to become great sailors. So living on the coast, so near the water, they become great sailors. They defended their land against other smaller tribes and European explorers that were traveling by water. Okay, so they keep their land safe from other small tribes and European explorers who were coming in by water. The Caloosahatchee River, which means River of the Calusa, was their main waterway. So they are protect land near water. They traveled by dugout canoes, which were made from hollowed-out cypress logs approximately 15 feet long. They used these canoes to travel as far as Cuba. Explorers reported that the Calusa attacked their ships that were anchored close to shore. So explorers are telling us that they've been attacked. The Calusa were also known to sail up and down the west coast, salvaging the wealth from shipwrecks. So, interesting. They're sailing up and down the west coast and trying to find wealth from those shipwrecks. Okay, so they are, let's see, let's put just travel by canoe. And we know that they were doing that to protect, to attack, and then also to try to find wealth. Travel by canoe, let's put protect, attack, and seek wealth. Last part, what happened to the Calusa? What happened to these fierce sailing Indians? The Calusa tribe died out in the late 1700s. Enemy Indian tribes from Georgia and South Carolina began raiding the Calusa territory. So you've got Indians now coming in from Georgia and South Carolina who are now raiding these people. Many Calusa were captured and sold as slaves. In addition, diseases such as smallpox and measles were brought into the area from the Spanish and French explorers, and these diseases wiped out entire villages. It is believed that the few remaining Calusa Indians left for Cuba. Few remaining leave for Cuba when the Spanish turned Florida over to British in 1763. All right, so we have other Indians are the cause for them decreasing in population. And then we also have, and I'm going to write down here, diseases. Okay, so that takes care of this article on the Calusa. You're going to have 3 multiple choice questions. And then as you continue throughout this week, guys, I kind of want you to follow the same pattern. If you can print these articles, that'll be a huge help. We're going to be doing a project on these tribes where we kind of compare and contrast 2 of these tribes. So it's going to be important that you remember and you're able to recall a lot of this really great information about these people. Let me know if you have any questions about this article.